Transparency and school safety. Those are the two concepts that are driving people that I know and that you know to run for school board to make a change for the better. We're going to talk to Lucy Meredith Moses from District 1 and Karen Wirsing from District 2 about their campaigns and what they are looking at and what they're hearing when it comes to transparency and school safety. But first, let's talk to them briefly about their campaigns and then get to the point. Meredith, how has your campaign been going as you've started this new venture?
It's been interesting. It's not something that I ever thought I would be doing, but I do. I'm having a good time with it. Knocking on doors has been very informative. I've been meeting a lot of very nice people. I've been meeting a lot of people that when I ask them how they feel about different things, they're giving me the answers that, well, they shouldn't have to be giving me. They're giving me answers like, yes, they're not feeling safe about their students in school. No, they don't want the biological males to go into the biological female bathrooms, things like that. I'm impressed that they actually feel the way that I feel. I was expecting a lot more pushback on some of these things, but I think that they're conservative people that actually care about their students.
Karen, your experience, I think you started earliest among most of us with this. How is things going when you've been knocking?
I'm glad you asked that question. Door knocking has been wonderful. I just met so many great people, and even people that may not be exactly on the same, have the same belief that I do. They've all been so kind. Goochland is such a great place to live, and we have so many great people in our community. So, but I have to agree with what Meredith said. A lot of the parents want to preserve our community values in Goochland and are concerned about the bathroom. The bathroom is a big concern with their children. Having to share a bathroom. They want it to be by biological sex. A lot of them have mentioned gender neutral options because, we care about all the children. We do. And so trying to see something that fits for everyone. But door knocking's been great. I've been able to get to a lot of District 2. I still have some homes to get to and some folks to meet, but it's been a great experience.
Where do you see Youngkin's model policy fitting in with Goochland County and your role in the school board and in addressing the concerns of all the parents?
Well, Youngkin's model policies for ensuring privacy, dignity, and respect for all students and parents in Virginia public schools, it follows the both federal and state laws and non-discrimination laws, and we need to make sure we're in full compliance. And full compliance means that we have a bathroom policy to make sure that all parents have been heard and we feel like all of our children are safe and have an option in our bathroom. So I would like to see our school board be able to pass those measures to make sure that we have a policy in place that provides clear guidelines, and our community would feel better just knowing what the guidelines are for all of the students in the system.
So Meredith, you've been door knocking. This same topic has come up. What would you add about how you see the model policy fitting in, what components it might have that directly address some of this, maybe what it doesn't have?
Well, a lot of that has to do with the parental rights. The transgender policy, as far as the bathrooms is concerned, it's coming up in conversation, and something needs to be done about that. The policy does need to be enforced and take effect. Unfortunately, the school board that we have right now, at least most of the members, have tabled that for however long it's going to take, if they ever get around to it. I do think that the policy needs to be written, at least as much as Governor Youngkin has written. I don't know that it needs to be much more than that, but the parents do need to have they need to know what's going on in the school systems.
So
So they need.
do you see this model policy as maybe a way of expanding and bringing to a further measure something known as transparency? I mean, when you just like look at the code, you have no idea what's going to go on. Am I right about that? I mean, so Meredith, transparency and the policy, do you see them linked?
Policy has to be written by law. It has to be written, and as once it's written and is policy and is enforced, then the parents will be getting their transparency. They will be knowing will the or are the students trying to go by different pronouns, because under the new policy they can't do that without a parental permission slip. They have to be in their biological bathrooms. They have to be in their biological locker rooms, and they can't be on the sports teams of the opposite sex.
Yeah, I mentioned transparency because if they don't know what you're going to do, that's really not that transparent. If you're not making things clearly written out and published and engaged and shared with the public, then that's really not that transparent. And it's an idea that I had that would help a lot. Karen, do you see it that way, or am I missing something?
I think that it isn't transparent right now, just like Meredith and both you are saying. You're saying that it's not transparent because there's no policy. So once there is a policy written on the bathrooms, it will be something that parents have access to. It's written, the guidelines are right there, so parents can see it and make decisions by those guidelines. And so we do need to have a bathroom policy, because transparency, when you hide things from parents, when you say, oh, well, there's a student plan. I don't even think the student plan was made known to every parent. I didn't know about a student plan until this past January, February, March time, when all of this happened. Then all of a sudden I realized, okay, there's a student plan. That should have been communicated to all the families. Only the families that sought a different accommodation knew of the plan. That leaves out all of the other parents from being able to make the right decision, informed decision for their child. So that's the important thing of being transparent, writing a policy, having those guidelines, and making them available to parents.
So another thing that has come up that's not directly related, but it is related in terms of the kind of decisions that are made, and I'm talking about library books, right? I mean, there is an uncountable number of books in the world, and there's only a finite budget. So you can only buy certain things, and they should be deemed appropriate. At least that's how I understand it. So Karen, we'll stick with you for the moment. About library book selection. I mean, I do some people see that you didn't pick a particular book as a banning issue, or what's the right way to understand that?
Well, I think when we keep ideas out of the library, that could maybe be considered banning. But as an educator myself, we know that we need to make appropriate selections for children to read. You cannot give a kindergartner something that is a topic that an eighth grader is dealing with. And right now, when we're looking at some of the books that have been found in the library, they're sexually explicit. And by law, that should not be in a book for children, especially in a school library where there is no parent or parental guidance in the library when they're checking out or perusing the books. Now, the school system has put into place, because of parent advocacy these last 2 years, they have put in an opt-out. But parents need to remember that their child can still go to the library and look at books freely and not be able to know what they're looking at. So sexually explicit books do not belong in a school library.
And so, Meredith, that's probably one of the topics that's come up when you've had discussions with people at their door as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, the way that they're selected, who selects them, what ideas you have about that? What would you share with us?
Well, the impression that I have right now is that there's a library committee. Karen, let me know if I'm wrong about this. And at the beginning of the year or throughout the year, they are given a list of different books to review. And I've actually been reviewing some of them this weekend. And for elementary school, they look pretty good, but sometimes you can't tell just from reviews and the little snippets that you can get online. There's certainly not enough time to read them all, but as far as once they're in the library, I don't think they should be in the library. I think that they should be taken out. I don't think that that's book banning. I think that's a lot like you can't get R-rated magazines at the 7-Eleven unless you're over 18. You know,
Hmm. So it's almost like it's more of a curation issue as opposed to a banning issue, I guess.
Mhm.
Well,
and
here's
if there was a system set up so that the parents had to sign a permission slip for them to get to sexually explicit or age non-appropriate material, then if the parents want to sign that permission slip, then fine.
Right.
I would be okay with that, but it would have to be a very enforced rule.
You have to keep your eye on it. And so,
Mhm.
Karen, you were going to add something there.
I
Tell
was
us
going to
about that.
add something. 2 years ago, the reason why we have a library stakeholders committee now that previews books before they're purchased. So it's not banning if we're making the selection prior. The issue is with we. Let me speak on the library stakeholders committee first. That was formed because of parent advocacy. Why did they form that? Because we were finding books. There was one book that went national called Gender Queer that was in our middle school for ages 10 to 13. And it actually showed two minors engaged in a sex act, and it actually showed the parts. So once the school found out that that book was available, it was a graphic novel. So of course it had graphics, but even some of the material and the text for the children to read was a very explicit text. So they removed that book. And but what that did for me as a parent finding that book is it made me feel like the school wasn't being transparent with what they're putting into here I had this trust in our school system to provide my child with appropriate content. And to see that was made me think let me look at more. Let me see what else is in here. And what I found was there was an app that was an IMBD movie app that sometimes adults we look at to see if we want to watch a movie or not, see if it's appropriate. And that was available to 10 to 13-year-olds, and they could actually view R-rated trailers, N-rated trailers. So they're again finding further content that was not appropriate for middle school, led to them forming the library stakeholders group, which they do purchase books. I think there's about 4 times a year. We have actually, since 2020, since the library stakeholders committee formed, there have been thousands of books that have been purchased. And the concerning part is, though, that even though we have found some books, and there's one right now that is I had objected to that they went ahead and purchased anyways. I'm going to be putting that information out so parents know the book that I'm speaking of and that they can opt out. I really do think what Meredith was saying, that they need to have an opt-in instead of an opt-out, because an opt-out, you could miss students. There could be students that are looking at these books on shelves that the parents don't even know that they were looking at them in the school, or another kid could check it out and show it to someone else. When the books are an opt-in, then you really have those books available just to those students where the parents want them to have that content.
You start with a core block of books that just arrive, or does someone go, I like that, I like that, I like that, whatever you got, send me. I don't know how I don't, you can maybe tell me how this initial group of stuff starts that then you need to go through and call and curate.
Well, when I first got into looking at the books and talking to the librarians, they check their books. They purchase these books from lists provided by the American Library Association.
Oh, the ALA.
And there have been actually counties that are going away from using the ALA. And it's because there's a self-proclaimed Marxist as the president of that, the Library Association. And she has actually targeted rural counties for grants, giving us these books. The one book that was pulled that I mentioned earlier that had this sexually explicit scene, in it. That book was purchased in 2020 when schools were shut down. So
Mm.
if you, what I'm saying is, I feel like there is a target to hit rural schools with these kind of books
I
that
think
we
so.
don't want.
I did.
We
I mean,
don't
it's
really
like,
want
I
these
mean, the
books.
question is like, how could this keep happening? Why is this happening in Goochland? Well, going forward, we're going to imagine that you're seated. I'm firmly looking forward to you being elected and fixing things, making America sane again, if only in red Goochland. Ideas about citizen engagement going forward. Meredith, I mean, you and I have talked offline a little bit about this. Some of the things that maybe when you find out what you can do, maybe some ideas of what you'd like to do with school board meetings and other sorts of things. What ideas do you have for citizen engagement going forward?
Well, I would like for the citizens that take the time to go to the meetings to actually be able to pay attention at the meetings. There's very little in the printed agenda as far as the background material. There is it's online, but there are many links for you to click on to find out the reports that they're actually going to be talking about. Um, and I don't think that they show up until about 24 hours before the
Right.
meeting. So it's going to be really hard to go through all of those links and in order to know even what they're talking about. And then there is the public comment section, which people get up, they talk. They do have everyone that wants to talk, even though sometimes the meetings go on longer than they think they should. But the what I would like to see is some give and take, some question answers. If it couldn't be done within the actual meeting itself, maybe a special meeting, maybe some forums periodically. Karen suggested maybe 3 or 4 times a year. But let's get the parents, the teachers, the board, people that have some sort of a stake in it. Let's get them together and talk about this stuff.
That sounds
Not
fantastic.
not just this is what it is.
Okay, Karen, what ideas do you have in the same vein?
Well, I think, we have so many wonderful things going for our schools, the after school activities, the sports, all of those things. And the parents are really inundated with a lot of information. As having a middle schooler myself, I get so many texts and so many messages about a lot of things. I think to build back transparency, parents want to have those messages about the important things. And like Meredith mentioned, even having some Q&A forums periodically to meet with our constituents in our districts to answer questions. So, making sure that when you are sending out information, there's so much information that parents can be overwhelmed with too much. Making sure it's the important stuff. The parents really love all the events, the activities. It's fun to show up to those things. That's like the icing on the cake as a school board member, to being able to attend those and greet people and see people. But the main reason why they're putting us on in the school board is not to do all that, shaking hands and schmoozing and seeing people. It's really to be able to be transparent and have the information shared with the parents, so the parents can feel involved in the decision making of what is happening in their schools. So really just making sure we utilize all these technology pieces to share the important stuff instead of hiding it behind an agenda that comes out periodically with so much for them to look at.
Wow. Guys, I really want to thank you for spending some time with me on this Elections 2023, focusing on school board districts, District 1 with Meredith Moses and District 2 with Karen Wirsing. Guys, we're looking forward to you taking the seat that you were vying for, and I'm looking forward to the great things you'll be doing to rebuild trust and to establish improved relationships with the constituents you have in your districts. And from this standpoint of our recording, early voting is less than a month away.
Yeah.
And it's more campaigning to do and more conversations to have. So looking forward to talking to you again if possible. But otherwise, thanks so much for your time.
Oh, thank
you
you.
for the opportunity.
Thank you.